Hey, Ross.
How's it going, man?
I'm good. What about you?
Great, yeah. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Loud and clear, and I can see you
Nice.
crystal clear.
Crystal clear.
I was about to say I can see you loud and clear.
Yeah. That works too.
Sometimes. Okay, let's start right away. First of all, have you picked the songs you're gonna do in the US tour? In the North US tour?
Well, the set list is, we're ready to go, rehearsed. And,
So, I was asking to see if you will be doing any changes with the 2 days, the live shows that you have done thus far.
yeah, there's we've definitely expanded the sets. In Europe, we went out on the road with Between the Buried and Me, and it was a co-headline tour. So the length of the set was slightly shorter.
Correct.
And also because of that tour was technically the postponed tour from the Virus era. We wanted to give Virus a proper outing, and so it was very much focused around that album. For the US North American tour, I should say, we are leaning more towards the Fauna material now that it's out in the open, and certainly including a few different songs from that record. Yeah, so we're excited to give them the opportunity to be played live.
Of course, but still, it's a little bit unfair for the Virus. But with that title, I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Usually, you are using a lot of visuals in your performance. Do you have anything special planned? Although I've seen a couple of YouTube videos, you are wearing those jungle shirts. I don't know.
Yeah. So the story of this it's actually the exact print of on the artwork wallpaper on the Fauna record that we've had made into shirts. So
that's cool.
Yeah, we thought it makes a nice change from just wearing all black and like every band does in the history of metal. So it's visually in that sense it's a different kind of show and a little bit more fun and lively and colourful. And we're not bringing we have some lights and gadgets like that, but we're not bringing like a video wall or anything like that. It's for Haken, it's all really about the music, musicians playing their stuff, a little bit of a light show, and me dancing around as crazy as I can. Yeah.
Do you have those shirts for sale, or is it only for the band?
Good question. We didn't have those shirts for sale in Europe, but we are planning to sell them at some point. They're going to arrive like halfway through the tour or something, and we will have some for sale on the tour, and with any luck online as well for people who can't make the shows.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it makes sense because the artwork is stunning, man. It's absolutely stunning.
Thank you. Yeah.
And it takes you time, probably as much time as it takes to listen to the album and to digest the album. It may take equal amount of time to notice all the details that you have there.
I wish I could take full credit for that artwork, but that unfortunately goes to Dan Goldsworthy, who's done a fantastic job at sort of creating this piece from our vision, our notes, but really it's his work. And we are advocates of the physical format. We love holding the product, and we're a dying breed, I guess. But
maybe no.
Maybe not. There's been a resurgence for sure. Certainly in the vinyl department.
I was referring to the vinyl.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I still buy CDs. So, but hey, that's another interview. But yeah, I agree with you. We want that to be part of the listening experience, to have these details in front of you, lyrics, the people involved, but also all the Easter eggs that we put in the artwork and little clues to what the songs are about, deeper meanings, and it's important, I think.
So that gets me to the follow-up question. Did the band come up with those ideas and those Easter eggs? What and how to connect those small details and the lyrics.
Yeah, it's very much a collaboration though with the artist and in seeing what works, and we throw loads of ideas to the table and see what sticks. But yeah, like everyone has a kind of input to that.
Or maybe this time Dan said, "Okay, I will put all the ideas in one single artwork."
Well, it looks like it. Yeah, it looks like it.
And it was interesting to check online and see before the release of the album how people were trying to translate what you have and what is the connection. It's very, very, very interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
And
what's funny actually when you mentioned throwing all the ideas to the into the artwork, it was very much a similar approach to the music as well. There's a lot going on the record, and the artwork really replicates that. I feel like how busy the album is. I love that about the artwork.
Well, in all honesty, the questions about the artwork I had them afterwards, but since we discussed the sets, I moved them higher. Because I was asking, I had a question to see how the complexity of the music and all the different, let's say, colors you are using in the music are being reflected in the complexity of the artwork. Because I think this is the most complex artwork.
Yeah, it's a perfect marriage of the music and art, for sure.
Right.
And a big reason for that is that Dan was very involved very early on in the process. Before we had recordings, we had some demos of the material. We had rough lyrics, some notes that I made about each song, also some of our ideas of other album covers that we like that might be an influence. And all this information, he had very early on before we recorded the album, So I think that's why it's become part of the product it gels in such a strong way,
Yeah, but however, this album is not a concept one, but there is some, let's say, connective tissue between the songs, right?
Yeah.
So, how did you come up with this, let's say, common theme that runs through the songs?
We started to think about what songs were represented and how they could be represented on this record, and we immediately thought of like totems for some reason, and that drew the link to the animals because totems have are about spirit animals,
right.
and well, that's a really cool way for each song to have its own identity, is for each song to really be represented by a particular animal or a group of animals or something like that. It's a little bit loose in some cases, but so that brought us to originally the potential to do flora and fauna as an album, but we decided to keep it strictly to animals or just fauna, the animal kingdom, and that opened up many doors for us to not be restrained by the narrative concept album, which we've done so many times now, and for really the album to be a series of mini concepts, and have their own identity in their own world. And so in that respect, it's quite it's a very different album to many albums that we've done before.
Yes. Yeah. Although you gave me an idea, too late. Although you said flora and fauna, right? That could have made easily two albums, right,
yeah.
Back to back.
Yeah, I don't think. I think I would struggle to come up with many ideas about singing about plants and.
Well, you have time. You have time. I planted the seed. So, what about the music? So, I understand that because we had the pandemic and we had minimum shows, minimum number 0 at some point.
Yeah.
How did you use this additional, let's say, free time? Was this a productive time for the band, or it was the other way around?
For the band, not really. Like as a band, not really. It became very stagnant. We had a situation where our keyboardist Diego Tejeda decided to leave the band. There were no shows happening, and it became a very stagnant time for us as a band. So, and for many people, like any industry, their work stopped, and it became more about home life focusing on family, focusing on themselves and stuff like this. So, yeah, it was a strange time. But out of that period, myself and Charlie wrote solo albums. We were able to sort of step aside from the Haken world and work on something that was sort of more rewarding for us personally, I guess. Something we had to get off our chests.
Of course. And
then once that kind of dust had settled and we were, the world was opening up again and there was the possibilities to do shows and start sort of meeting up and writing again, then the inspiration started to come again and the creative juices started flowing. And a big factor to this was the return of our original keyboard, Dr. Pete Jones, who's completed his academia studies in theoretical physics.
So he got his PhD because you said doctor.
Exactly, and has returned to rock and roll. And it's great, and it's just rejuvenated the band's spirit, and it's just, it just feels like a fresh start, and like we'd drawn a line, and this is chapter 2 of the band. It feels really great. We've been out with Symphony X, but this is our first major tour, headlining tour with Pete in the band in North America, and yeah, we're really excited to be out again doing it.
Oh, of course, and you have to be. I mean, it's expected. So, what about the music itself? I think the way I hear this album is that it feels like the band had unlimited degrees of freedom in this one.
Yeah.
So you practically tried whatever you wanted to try.
That was the mentality. And I think we try and do this with every album, but it was like, throw away the Haken rulebook. Whatever you know about this band, like, there's obviously going to be recognizable elements, but we did want to just approach this with an anything goes. If it happened to be electronic jazz, then so be it. We didn't care. We just wanted to go stylistically as diverse as possible, invite and give a chance to any idea that any of us had, and see if it's resonated with everyone. And that was a lot of fun to filter through all these ideas, and there were some very brave decisions I felt that we made on a lot of the charts.
So there are two ways to read that. Sometimes, metalheads are very, very inside a box, and they don't like getting even an inch outside of that. In your case, since you have under the progressive rock/metal genre, of course you are allowed, quote unquote, to do anything you want, right?
Thing is, we're not, like Metallica. We haven't got much to lose by doing this, and it's, in a way, it's become our modus operandi is to be experimental, is to be diverse,
right?
And I kind of saw it with the release of the singles, that it was quite divisive. One song had the pop elements and pissed off a lot of people, maybe. And then there was sort of the Vector Virus style that sort of returned a little bit in Taurus, in the track Taurus. So the metalheads, the gent heads loved it, and perhaps the traditional prog heads didn't. And so it can be a blessing and a curse. I agree with you, because of how diverse our catalogue is now, that you're never going to please everyone. It's just a fact.
And music is not written.
We're at peace with that. Is what I was going to say.
And music, it's not meant to be like that. Once the band start writing music that is to satisfy the fan base, to me, is done.
That's not where we're at.
Right.
Ever.
However, in progressive metal and metal rock or whatever, there is a tendency, if you may, to compete with yourself, right? Because you have, for some reason, you have to be more complex. You have to expand even more your horizons. So how do you feel when you start writing a new album? Do you feel that pressure, even from your own mind?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't pressure to up the game, in some respects. But I do feel like in some aspects of the songwriting, we've simplified a little bit as well. It's been a bit of a balance between taking things to a little bit more of an extreme level, certainly with how complex things are on the drums or some of the guitar riffs I could never play, and but then we've also opted to go for a few tracks on the album which are a bit more accessible, and songs like Alphabet of Me and Love Bites, like they could be pop songs, really.
Oh, don't say that, man. Don't
if you strip away the technicality of some of the production, and really deconstruct it, they're quite simple songs, so I feel like that balance is what's driven us, and also not to think too hard about it at the end of the day, because it's really got to flow organically. And if you're in your own head too much with this stuff, it's only going to create roadblocks in the creativity. So
no, you should do whatever feels. The band should do whatever feels best for them.
Right.
Bottom line.
As long as we're enjoying it, and as long as it's sending some sort of feeling to us as the writers, as we're writing it, that's the intuition that you have to go with.
So earlier you mentioned that this is the second chapter in Haken. So what do you think it's new? It's new or revived or revived, let's say. What is new in chapter 2?
I guess just that the pandemic felt like a pause and a line in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
I think the return of Pete has a big factor, and just the rejuvenation of the spirit of the band stepping up to the next level in the new chapter. We have new management. It's I would say it's those elements that make us feel like it's a new beginning.
So we said in the beginning that you will be expanding the setlist or changing the setlist to have more songs from the Fauna. How many songs are you planning to use from the new album?
I don't have the list in front of me, but certainly I would say there's at least 4, possibly 5.
Unless you do Elephants.
No, we will be doing Elephants.
You will?
It's our favourite song. I'm not afraid to spoil that. I know for a fact that many people will be excited to learn that and want to come see that live. So, as one of our favourite songs that we've ever written, we are dying to perform that.
Yep, I can see that. So this tour will take you after the North US tour. You start the European festival season, and then you come back to South US, and that schedule goes until the mid of October. Do you know, or have you planned the rest of the year?
I think outside of that, we are not. There isn't much activity as it stands, and we are focusing on early 2024 for further touring. So there's parts of the world such as Asia, Australia, that we'd like to hit, and I think we're working on putting those details together and completing the world tour element.
And of course, I will ask you: is there a second visit to the North US starting next year, or the visa is done?
Well,
for this?
We've got the visas last 1 year. We always like to see if we can try and fit in a second visit, even if it's shorter.
Correct.
To make the most, because there's a lot of costs to get these visas approved. But we do have Cruise to the Edge 2024, which we will be. Which sets sail from I think it's Miami, if I'm not mistaken. But so that will be a sort of return to the US in early 2024.
That's cool
for the cruise. So there may be shows booked around that. I'm not sure yet.
Has the dust settled after the UK leaving the EU? And now you can get easier the visas, the paperwork. Has this been smoothed out?
It's not smooth at all. It's a nightmare. It's a bureaucratic nightmare. It's extra costs, and it's particularly hitting the younger band. I say younger, but the bands that aren't as established. It's costing a lot of money and a lot of admin time for creative people, which is stressing them out. To overcome these hurdles, and even before Brexit, I was involved in a lot of the admin side of Haken and the planning the tours and stuff. Yeah, in the early days, and that was stressful enough. But having this extra layer of bureaucracy and getting work permits and visas and stuff just to go to Europe and getting things stamped as you cross borders, which takes hours. It's just it's an absolute nightmare. So the dust is still very much in the air. Everyone's still pissed off.
So you need one working visa to play outside the UK in Europe, right? You don't need individual, right?
You don't need it for every country.
Okay.
But obviously there are separate borders for Switzerland. There are separate borders for Scandinavia.
Oh boy!
And it's you have to plan for that, extra time at the borders and things like that.
Absolutely. Last question, and since you mentioned the younger, older bands and such, The Mountain. So it's 10 years since that album was released. Although
I'm feeling old now.
This is why I mentioned. To me, 2000 still feels like it was yesterday, but anyway, that's a different subject.
I don't know if you know the singer Dino Jelusic, crazy Croatian vocalist. He's like playing in Whitesnake now and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I complimented him on his work recently, and he said, "Oh man, it means a lot coming from a veteran like you."
Oof.
Veteran, Jesus.
What do you mean?
Now I do feel old. I'm just getting started, baby. Come on.
Absolutely. So, did you have any plans? Although, again, it falls on top of the Fauna touring cycle to celebrate that release. Let's say
we have plans to integrate more of the Mountain into the set list this year. That includes the North American run, and certainly at festival season. There's one specific show where we're practically playing the whole of the Mountain. Not quite, but the majority of it. It's like a very mountain-oriented set list. So it's kind of fun to be revisiting that in a way. And I guess over the years, playing these songs, they've had a life of their own. So we sort of perform them in different ways, and they have different kind of energy from back when we recorded it. So quite fun to hear them in this age, this context.
How is it to visit something that you worked on 10 years ago? Is it I don't know? Is it about strange even, or you don't want to deal with that period that you had that mindset and you had that songwriting habits? I don't know. How does it feel?
I guess I don't know. I'm not really thinking about it in that way. It was a very special time for the band, even though we were like sort of coming from a place of we are nobodies and this is a struggle and all this. And now we've seen some success. It's strange to be singing about struggle in a way, but still we are working our way
up to the mountain.
Very much so. Up the mountain. Even now, we're not even halfway there. So
there you go.
So it still feels relevant. It's still it's a special album for all of us, and we're always thrilled to play it to the fans because we know that it's a special album in everyone's hearts as well. So
absolutely. Thank you very much for your time. Have safe travels. Stay healthy.
Thank you.
And looking forward to see you in Chicago.
Bless you. Thank you. Yeah, Chicago, baby. Can't wait.